And so, Stephen, before you became the person that you are today, helping other people transform their lives, what was life like for you before that?
Yeah, so if we go back to that moment where I saw myself on that security camera, I was early 30s. I was outwardly a very successful person. I had hit all the markers of success, right? Had a good paying job. I was really successful in my field, had a beautiful wife. I was traveling all the time, going to football games, just doing the things that I wanted to do, right? And anyone from the outside would have said, "Man, you've got it all. Life is exactly what you want." But inside, everything was anything but perfect. I absolutely hated getting up to go to work every day. Hated my job. Even though I was good at it, I was so burnt out on doing it. And as a result of that, I think I really started to let myself go unconsciously. I didn't even realize it was happening, right? I was letting myself go. I was eating in the food court because, it was a retail store inside the mall. So I'm having to eat over in the food court. And on top of that, there were a lot of times where I was the only person in the store until later in the day, which means for lunch, I had to close my store down, run to the food court, get a bunch of food, and come back and scarf it down as fast as humanly possible before a customer walked in the store and interrupted my lunch. So, as you can imagine, in that type of environment, you're eating a lot of unhealthy food. You're eating it as quickly as possible, which makes it easy to overeat. And then on top of all of that, I'm stuck in the job that I don't like. And I had tried to get out multiple times. I tried to go get other jobs, but when you work in retail, it's difficult to go get a job outside of retail because retail's looked down upon by a lot of people. And so I really found myself in that moment where I was 250 pounds almost, and I'm only 5'7". So unfortunately, when you weigh that much and you're 5'7", it doesn't make you 6 foot tall. It just makes you wider. So, that didn't help my self-esteem any. But I think the worst part for me when I saw myself in that camera was like you had said in the intro. It was that realization that that little kid who had always run up and down the street and was outside playing basketball and football every day and played sports in high school and had always saw themselves as a good athlete, all of a sudden was this massively overweight guy who didn't even recognize himself. I literally, when I saw myself on the camera, man, I pulled my phone out of my pocket. It was in the process of calling my assistant manager to cuss them out for letting a stranger behind our cash register. Right? Like when I say I didn't recognize myself, I don't mean like theoretically speaking. I literally did not recognize the guy. Right? I'm about to cuss somebody out and fire somebody over me being behind my own counter. So
So when you saw that camera, so you didn't recognize them, you were gonna report them. Well, what was the first thing that like rolled through your head, like, or like what emotion, like when you saw that?
I might offend somebody when I say this, but literally the thought that went through my head was, "Who is this fat guy behind my counter?"
And then, and then, at what point did you realize that that fat guy behind the counter was you?
When he turned around and I saw his face.
And then what emotions were you feeling at that point, or what was going through your head the moment you saw that? It's like you saw his face, and it's like it's you.
Yeah, it's all I really remember was just having that moment of like my heart kind of sinking into my stomach and thinking like, man, I've got to do something. Like that's just man, what has happened to me? Like, and it's like I don't think people who have never weighed a lot understand this. But it is 100% possible for you to get that big and not even realize how out of shape you actually are. Because you don't just gain that kind of weight overnight. I mean, I was 80 pounds overweight. You don't just gain that overnight. That takes a long time to gain. And so you don't notice it, right? You notice like in the beginning, I'm putting on a little weight, but like most guys, I said, I can lose 10, 15 pounds easily. I probably could have lost 10 to 15 pounds easily in my 20s, but I didn't. And I just kept adding and adding and adding until finally I saw myself.
When you saw yourself on the footage, like getting up to that point, what age range were you? Were you in your 20s? Were you in your 30s at that point in time?
Yeah, I was like early 30s.
You're in
So
your
like
early
maybe
30s.
33.
I know you mentioned that you were working in the retail store and that you were working those long hours and that you were covering the lunch shift and you're just scarfing stuff down
Mhm.
as quickly as possible. But were you, aside from that, were you still living an active lifestyle where you were like maybe exercising or anything like that? No.
At that moment, I was doing nothing. It was literally taking everything I had to even get out of bed in the morning and go to work. And there was times I would work the night shift. That's the thing with retail is you don't always work a single shift. So sometimes you're opening the store, sometimes you're closing the store, and it varies throughout the week. And for me, it was just dragging myself to work, dragging myself through the day, and then going home and crashing in front of the TV, playing video games, watching TV, just doing anything I could to try to unwind from the day. And that then led to poor sleep on top of the lack of activity, which also created issues.
Interesting. You mentioned that once you got back home, you started to do certain things to unwind.
Mhm.
And did it help?
I thought so in the moment, and in hindsight, no.
It's funny because even my own life, I kind of look back in those moments and I was like, oh, because I've had some, I didn't work in, I used to have a dry cleaner back in the day and I used to work those long hours too. And I remember, similar, I'd be coming home and I just look for something to be able to kind of ease my mind or to be able to escape or something like that, even if it was just something completely. I didn't play a whole lot of video games back then, but I did other things that would get my mind off and they didn't do that much of a really good job.
Yeah. The one thing that people don't realize is all behaviors are really just attempts to solve a problem. And a lot of times, as humans, we don't pick the best solution to a problem. We just pick the most convenient one. So, for example, if I wanted to reduce stress, I now look at it and say, I'm going to go do a workout. Doing a workout is now a stress reliever for me. But back then, getting my 250-pound self off the couch, driving to the gym when I was already tired, doing a workout, and then going back home was a huge ask. Sitting down in front of the TV and grabbing some potato chips or something, super simple, super easy.
What made it so that that was your go-to back then, and then now your go-to is completely something different now?
A lot of it comes down to a lack of awareness, right? It was back then, it was just like, what's something I can do right now? Like, what's easy? What feels good? And for me at that time, it was, hey, if I can just sit down, I can watch TV, I can laugh and just have some fun. And maybe, because I'm hungry, I'm, just going to eat whatever's here, whatever's convenient because I don't want to cook anything, right? Because again, grabbing the bag of potato chips is simpler than cooking, right?
Very much.
So again, this goes back to the whatever's easiest. And it's that lack of awareness.